Okay, good afternoon, Mariners fans, and welcome back to episode 3 of Mariners TV. I'm your host, somehow I'm back, Tyson Scott, and I'm here. Thanks for having me back with Carly Carmichael.
Great to have you back. We weren't going to let you get away that easily.
I think all of the half-decent hosts are stuck in Sydney. They couldn't make it to the Central Coast, so somehow I get the call up to go again. But we thank you all for joining us again. We hope you're all staying safe and staying self-isolated in these difficult times. We've got a huge show coming up, so Carly, can you give us a bit of an update as to who we've got in the show today?
Yeah, so we're starting off with club legend John Hutchinson. He's over in Seattle at the moment, so we'll be touching base with him. We've got local comedian Mitch Garling as well. He's also a Mariners member, so nice to chat to him. And then we've also got Tom Smithies from the Daily Telegraph and Ray Gatt, former writer for The Australian. So we'll have a little bit of a chat about what's happening with football at the moment, and obviously the announcement from FFA this morning.
Obviously a huge day in Australian football. Everyone's been waiting to hear from the Australian sports. We heard from the FFA today, so I'm really looking forward to chatting to Tom Smithies and Ray Gatt. We'll have a really in-depth talk about what this means for Australian football and have a look at what the future holds. But during the week, we've actually also had some positive news as well, Carly.
Yes, definitely. So Mariners player Jack Clisby got married to his wonderful partner Siobhan. So big congratulations to them. As you can see, Jack posted something on his Instagram this week. So they eloped, which is just beautiful, and congratulations to them, and looks like a beautiful day, and hopefully they can celebrate with their family and friends when everything goes back to normal.
Absolutely. I think Cliz is punching well above his weight there, so it's about time that he locked that in for life. So congratulations to both Siobhan and Cliz on what looked like a beautiful day. I think at the moment we've got our first guest on the line, John Hutchinson. So whilst we're bringing him in, I guess, Carly, you were someone who was lucky enough to spend a lot of time with him at the club. What are your memories like with John Hutchinson with his time at the Mariners?
Yeah, I mean, Hutch is probably one of those people that you'll never forget, because he's such a wonderful guy and did so much for the club and for the community. So definitely one of my favourite people.
Well, we're lucky enough to be joined by John Hutchinson here at the moment. I can hear him in my ear. He's in Seattle. Hutch, welcome back, mate. How's things? Good, mate, good. I guess we'll start. Could you just give the fans, I guess a lot of them, they know you're in Seattle. We're hearing a lot out of the United States on how the situation is becoming. Can you start by giving us a bit of an update on your personal situation, how you're dealing with things there in Seattle and what the latest is?
Yeah, look, it's when the coronavirus first started, it was a strange situation because it started in Seattle, and we had a game that could have been called off, but we ended up playing the game, and then slowly stuff got shut down. So we were doing individual training sessions with players at that stage, but then that got shut down as well. And now America's suffering. You know, there's 30,000 people a day getting infected, and there's around 2,000 people dying a day. So it's terrible numbers coming out of America every day at the moment. So, you know, there's no end in sight at the moment for the lockdown. We've been in lockdown probably now for about 8 weeks in Seattle, and it's been long days locked in an apartment with my wife and 2 kids and our puppy dog, which we brought over from Australia, from Melbourne when we left. And the homeschooling's a disaster, let me tell you that much. I feel for the teachers every day that have to do homeschooling.
And how are you finding it personally, mate? I guess, like you mentioned, we're hearing a lot out of the United States. You and the family, how are you doing generally? What are you doing to pass time? How are you going with the homeschooling?
Yeah, look, we do Zoom meetings with players, and we've done a couple of trivia nights. We have all-in staff meetings once a week just to find out any updates and what's happening with the club. So that's good, you know, in terms of the club staying in touch and letting us know what's happening. Myself, I'm just building my game model like most coaches out there. You know, in this spare time, just cutting up through some video and having a look at old games when I was coaching, assistant coach, what I could do better in training, etc. So just doing that in the personal stuff. Homeschooling, as I said, it's rough. Mate, me and my son have never argued so much. Like, we just argue, and at the moment we're doing fractions. And I've got no idea, to be honest. I Googled that much about how to do fractions and decimal points and all this kind of stuff, and it's just a disaster. So, but they don't go back to school till September. So,
wow.
I'm going to keep this principal daddy man, as I call myself, at home.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep that hat on and just keep being a principal.
Well, with your role at the Seattle Sounders, you sort of chatted a bit about what you're doing now, obviously, a bit more planning for the future. When things start to get underway again, sort of what does your role look like, and how was your journey in getting back to Seattle?
Yeah, so as you know, I was at Western United when they started up. I come from Seattle. I was in Seattle for 2 years and left to go to Western United. And then, as you do, it's a nice cheap move, moving across that big pond of water, moving back to Seattle. And I'm with the first team. Assistant coach, but my main role is development of the young players. So, any players signed for the first team, any players that are potential, looking like they're going to stay in the club through our second team, through Tacoma, which is the second team, and with the academy as well. So, putting together individual training plans for them, they're on and off the field stuff with the first team every day on the training field as well, which is great. And doing some training with them. So. It's a busy schedule. The club at the moment is looking at, changing the way we train the young players, which is great. It's a big task, but everyone's on board. Brian Schmidt, the head coach, all the other assistant coaches from the first team, the academy coaches, the second team coaches are all on Zoom calls like we are now, and just discussing on what we feel is the best way to train players.
And Hutch, I guess on behalf of all the Mariners fans, it's really good to see you kicking on and doing well over there in Seattle. But this week, as a club, we're winding back the clock. It's almost 7 years to the day where the Mariners were crowned champions, which I'm sure is one of your fondest ever sporting memories. Looking back at that day, at that game, the build-up, the win, what are the first things for you that come to mind when you think about that grand final win?
Yeah, it was. It's funny when you're retired, because at first you don't really look back and reflect too much. But as I've got older and my son's getting older and daughter, you like to show them a few things about in the past where you played and what you kind of done in your career. So we've been looking back. I've been fortunate enough that Benny Coonan's been sending me through some stuff as well in isolation to have a look at. So that's been good. But that day was an amazing day. It was I still remember at lunch Brad McDonald getting up and singing on game day, which was fantastic. It kind of just broke the ice a little bit. We watched a movie the night before as a team. And I know Graham Arnold and Clarkey were, a little bit angry because of all the junk food that was out that night. But they said we can do whatever we normally do. So out come the sweets and the lollies and the ice cream and whatever else we brought out. So that was great. But the day itself was amazing. To be captain was nice, but it was more about just the group in general, the club, the fans, and the players have been there for a long time that, got to enjoy that moment. The only disappointing part was people like Matt Simon, Alex Wilkinson, who had been in the club a long time, that had left. But, they've both gone on and won A-League championships elsewhere, so it's good for them. But, it would have been nice to have them around as well.
Just lastly, in the game in particular, when did you know that you had it won?
Probably about 93rd minute after the Brisbane Roars debacle. So, it was a different kind of game against Brisbane. Was the Brisbane game? I'll never watch it. I'll never watch highlights. I hate that game.
Never happened.
I wish I could erase it from my memory. Yeah. So, we at the time when we went 2-0 up in that game, we knew that they were coming. We were out on our feet. We couldn't keep the ball. It was literally like a game of we'll defend, you attack. We were just trying to clear it wherever we could, and they just kept coming. So against Western Sydney, it didn't feel like that. It felt like we were in control still. When Macca scored the penalty, it was a funny feeling because you just felt like, okay, it's ours. We can't lose from here. We're not going to lose. And everyone felt that on the field, But we had a lot of experience on the field as well that day. There was Patrick at the back, and then there's Millet who came off, but doing a great job. And there's good players everywhere. Young boys that we know have gone on to bigger and better things as well. And we just had a really good team, and there was just a good vibe out there. When the final whistle went, it was just relief. Relief for not just the players, but everyone involved in the club. Like all the staff that worked from day one to that year, and the fans and the members, all the ones that went through those heartbreak of the losses. It was good for them. It was difficult times when we lose those grand finals. You don't think you're ever going to get another chance. So, fourth time lucky, I guess.
Definitely. And winding back the clock just a little bit further, what are your first memories in those early years when you first arrived on the Central Coast to play for the Mariners?
Yeah. Well, my first memory was Terrigal Beach.
Yeah.
So I remember going down to Terrigal Beach and seeing that, and I was with Laurie, and it's an amazing place. It's got some incredible spots. At the time, I was unsure of what I was going to do, and then when I met Laurie, and he's like, "Hey, come to Terrigal Beach," and we rolled up. It was kind of a done deal from that moment. You know, that drive as you go from past Terrigal Pub into Terrigal, up and down, and see the Terrigal Beach part. It was just like, wow, like I get to play soccer here. Like, how good is this? So, you know, I remember those were the early days. But you know, the club was built with Laurie McKenna built that club. You know, people always say about the culture and that, but the culture starts with the coach. You know, when he started the culture, the players carried it through. But you know, those first 5 years was incredible. I've got people I still speak to, but you know, when I look back and Benny Coonan sent through some videos, and you look back, just the fans and the buzz around the place, and you know, you don't actually realise how many people are at some of them games. Like the Newcastle Jets game when we beat them 2-0 and unfortunately lost to them in the grand final, and then we ended up scoring the third in extra time. That was incredible. You know, you look back at that game, that was an amazing feeling, and yeah, it's just the good players we played with, the buzz around the place, you know, the amount of community work that we end up doing, which was great. You get to meet people, and you know, you get to have life friends that are on the Central Coast.
I guess just to finish up before we let you go, Hutch, it's obviously a tough time for everyone in the world at the moment. I know that the Mariners fans are really excited and thankful to hear from you. What message would you have for the people on the Central Coast at the moment, the people that, you know, may be doing it a bit tough? What's your message for them, I guess, in such a tough situation?
Yeah, look, it's difficult. You know, you hear of people losing jobs and, you know, families struggling, and it's you know, the coast is always, whether you're playing soccer or you're just on the coast, it's got that family feel, hasn't it? So, you know, you just got to look out for people and make sure you stay safe. You know, here in America, as I said, the coronavirus we knew it was coming. We didn't understand it. You know, we as a family actually went to IKEA about 2-3 days before it got shut down. Just not really understanding how severe it's going to be. So, and what it's going to do to the world. So, you know, just look out for friends, strangers that need help, and just be safe. It's, you know, we as a country here in the country in Australia, we'll get through it, and you know, hopefully the football starts up again, the A-League. It'll be good to watch some football run around, but you know, in general, it'll be good for life just to start up again and people will be able to go outside and get on with it.
Well, Hutch, thank you for joining us. It's been great to catch up. As I said, the club's playing the grand final in full on Friday, so I'm sure you'll be able to tune in and watch it again. But we really thank you for joining us. We wish you all the best for the rest of your career there in Seattle, and hope you can get back out on the pitch soon.
Thank you, guys. Nice talking to you both.
Thanks, Hutch.
Thanks, Hutch.
Thank you.
And yes, don't forget, so you can actually watch the Mariners v Western Sydney Wanderers grand final on our Facebook and YouTube page. So from 7:30 p.m. Friday, so that's tomorrow night, you'll be able to watch that. So make sure you know, pull it up on the TV and you know, get the whole family together and just enjoy that moment.
It was a huge day, Carly. Talk us through your day.
Oh, it was a big day. So I know that we all got onto the buses, and even all the buses were named after different Mariners players, and I was on the Oliver Bozanic bus, just as an FYI. I only remember that because it came off my Facebook memories the other day, and I'd taken a photo of my little bus ticket. So yeah, and you know, I'm going down with all the fans, and being there was fantastic. I ended the night with a black eye, unfortunately. Someone who was celebrating a little bit too hard went to hug my husband, and his arm came around and knocked me in the face. So all of my grand final celebration photos involve a lovely thing coming out of my eye. But yeah, it was great.
Very nice. Yeah, well, it's going to be a good night on Friday night. It'll be good to tune into the Mariners Facebook page, onto YouTube, to watch that game again. And like we spoke about last week as well, if you're looking to kill some time, dust off your DVD of The Code as well.
Yes,
The Code, the Life with the Mariners documentary from 2013 still lives on YouTube as well, so you'll be able to jump on, and if you want a bit of a build-up into the grand final, I definitely recommend watching
The guys
those.
from Onion TV did a fantastic job on that. It shows you sort of all the things that happen in the background, and you know, even so much down to how the players are, you know, what they're doing on their days off, and the coaches when they all get together, what their strategies are, and you know, how they're going to look after the team and get them get them where they need to be. So it was really, really great insight.
Speaking of videos, maybe more to the funny side.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about our next guest?
So our next guest is Mitch Garling. He is a local comedian, also a Mariners member. He's a local coastie. He's been a Mariners fan for, I think, since day one. He was recently going to debut one of his latest shows at Sydney Comedy Festival and the Melbourne Comedy Festival. Unfortunately, they got postponed. So so he sort of had to sort of reschedule his work at the moment and how that's affected. But he did a really fantastic video with former Mariners player Anthony Gollick a little while ago. So we'll show you that.
Before we show that though, we might just need to give a little disclaimer that I don't know what the rating is on it.
No,
it's hilarious, but
there's a caution.
PG. Let's say it's PG.
Yeah, we'll look to it now.
You know what, mate? I'd let Mitchell Pearce look after my dog. So would I.
When we had Hutch, was his face on the screen for them?
Mate, I'm so pumped to watch Big Burning Tomic on I'm a Celebrity. What did you call it?
Ange, pots of clay glue.
Man, I've never heard that. That's so funny. I have a Sydney Kings membership.
Who's Peter Brock? Who's Shane Warne? Who's this Ben Cousins bloke?
I don't care what race people are, man. You know, support one, support all.
Did you see the Aussie cricket team announcements?
Yeah, selectors got that right, man.
I think the Wallaby selectors have made the right call.
I reckon the Blues selectors have made the right call this year.
Is there a golf channel?
Do you know what we should do, man? We should go to Bathurst, we'll get a 6-pack to share, and then we'll watch the entire race. Man, I'm so excited for NRL Grand Final entertainment.
Yeah, I hope they get Richie Sambora back.
Big time.
Leave his head on!
Yeah, tackle him within the rules of the game.
I really hope Melbourne Storm win the grand final again this year.
Paul Gowan's alright, hey. I've gone to the Melbourne Cup sober. Did I tell you that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done it. The Manly Sea Eagles are full of players that I respect and admire.
You know what, mate? I'm neither Holden nor Ford.
Did Bosnich get done for doing coke? Oh, just doesn't seem like that kind of bloke.
Come on, mate. I'm not scared of the RBB. Yeah, hopefully the VAR checks that.
Oh, referee!
Great call, ref.
Great call. I'm going to give the Marsh Brothers a chance before I judge them.
Come on, the Titans.
Go the Titans! Does Tim Cahill eat Wheat Bix? Wow, that is news to me.
My lady, come, my lady, you're my butterfly, sugar, baby.
That's good. As someone who goes to a lot of sporting events, that just
You're not a Titans fan, are you?
no. I was going to say unfortunately, but fortunately, I'm not a Titans fan.
Oh, classic.
So we've got Mitch with us now. How you going, Mitch?
Mitch, how are you, mate?
Hey guys, thanks very much for having me. I think I've possibly just made a lot of enemies with that video, but either way, thanks for having me.
That's all right. Tyson is a Sea Eagles fan, so he does respect and admire all of his players. So.
That was a really nice thing you said about the Sea Eagles. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, man, definitely 100% meant it, and meant it just out of my heart.
Oh, thank you.
We'll go to some of the more serious stuff first, and then hopefully we'll get back to the lighter stuff. But So the situation of COVID-19 is taking its toll on so many industries, and I guess one of the industries that is so badly affected has been the entertainment industry. I know, especially working so closely with JC Events as well. Like obviously, you know, they have a lot of live music and things like that they've had to sort of rework how they do their business. So how's it sort of affected you?
Yeah, look, it's certainly as a comedian, it is really affecting myself and a lot of other comedians as well. Probably in the same sort of boat as musicians. There's pretty much no live gigs at all, which is, as a comedian, that's obviously the main thing you want to do. So that hurts at the moment. But yeah, I was supposed to be debuting Sydney Comedy Fest tonight. And I was supposed to have just come back from Melbourne Comedy Fest 3 days ago, and that's all been cancelled for 2020. So hopefully we can start fresh for 2021. But yeah, it's been interesting.
Mate, before we get into some Mariners questions, I just wanted to ask, I guess, being a comedian and time is obviously key. Are you able to use any of this time to work on any new material, or is anything that you can really draw from the situation to help, or is it all is it all sort of doom and gloom at the moment?
No, I definitely can. I think the the main thing I've been trying to do is instead of getting upset about working on this show for so long, I've just kind of put it on the back burner, and I'm like, well, that gives me another year to make it even better. So I have been tinkering here and there, adding some stuff, taking out some stuff that possibly might not have worked if I hadn't worked on it so much. But look, there's probably going to be some COVID coronavirus chat. I think it probably will come up. If it doesn't, then I'm probably pretty ignorant. So I think it'll come up, definitely.
I was going to say, because the show that you were going to be debuting was it Big Fat Loser? I don't want to say that's wrong. Loser. Yeah, I guess, and that comes from your experience. You've undergone a bit of I don't want to say it, sounds a bit weight loss journey. So I guess
that's exactly how I build it.
Yeah, so I guess a lot of your material comes from your everyday experiences. So by not including what's going on at the moment, can
we sense a shift from comedy to maybe Instagram fitness influencer? Is that what's going to happen?
Yeah. No. Yes.
Yeah, look, in all honesty, possibly. I mean, as you guys can tell by my physique, it's not far off. So it does make sense that I would go down that route. But yeah, it's it is all part of the, Big Fat Loser was all part of that journey, if you will, having just knocked off 40 kilos. So just got to keep it off, and then maybe I will be that Instagram influencer before no time.
We might be able to hook you up with Matt Ryan, and you guys could sort of like a I don't know.
Full workout. Yeah.
Anyway.
But mate, no, congratulations.
Honestly, if I could have sorry guys. Yeah, if I could have half the abs that Matty Ryan has, I'd be well and truly happy with that. But yeah, no, thanks Tyson. I appreciate the congratulations.
No, yeah, well, like I said, congratulations. It is, all jokes aside, an amazing achievement, and I hope COVID-19 doesn't sort of take its toll like it is on most of us. So congratulations. And speaking of Matty Ryan, I guess looking at the Mariners, you've been a huge Mariners fan since day one. Looking back on, I guess, the memories we've had, what is for you some of the fondest memories you've had as a Mariners fan?
Look, there really is a lot of good memories. Obviously, the grand final is number one for a lot of people, myself included. That was a hell of a day. But there's a few times, I guess, a few random ones. Like, although we didn't get the win, that 5-4 game against Sydney FC a few years back, that was such a good game to be at. That was so great. And then obviously the big win we had over Sydney FC a few years later, that felt pretty damn sweet as well. And but look, grand final is the be all and end all. And we got one. So.
No, beautiful. And so as being you're a Mariners member, you've been involved with the club, as a fan for so long, you understand sort of, the lovely little community we've got with our members. So we're going to be running a members-only competition where you can actually win a spot in the crowd for Mitch's best of Zoom comedy show. So we're going to be hosting a live comedy show with Mitch. So it'll be almost exactly like being at Melbourne Comedy Festival, I promise you. So he'll be up there. We'll have it open for 20 Mariners members. They can log in and they'll be able to get this exclusive best of show from Mitch. So if you are a member and you want to be in the running, email your name and member number to info@ccmariners.com.au before 5 p.m. on Friday the 1st of May, and you'll be in the draw. It is over 18s only. Just due to the content. So, if you can get that in before 5 p.m. next Friday, you'll be in the draw, and then we'll start contacting winners and get that locked in.
Cool. Mitch, before we let you go, can you just give us a bit of a taster of what we can expect to see from a Zoom comedy show?
Oh, look, that's so, yep, good. I'm glad you guys asked that, because I definitely have some stuff prepared. And, look, I'll save all the A-grade material for the guys. That's in my heart. I want the Mariners members to get all the good stuff.
Of course.
I'm very excited to connect with upwards of 20 people. So that will be good, mainly just because I've really just been connecting with my wife and child for the last few weeks. But if I could connect with a few more people, that'd be great. But yeah, look, I'm just super excited, and yeah, I can't wait to try some stuff out with members.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mitch. And yeah, we'll get our members in touch shortly.
Thanks, Mitch. See you, mate.
Thanks, guys. All the best. Bye-bye.
Beautiful. And we'll just go to a couple of words from our sponsors and then we'll be back.
Cabs will get you there. Cabs will get you there. Cabs will get you there.
Mateship for me is, you know, the art of being a friend. It's always being there when someone calls you, whether it's at midday or midnight, you pick up the phone and you do whatever it is that your friends need. And, you know, there's always times in your life that you need to lean on someone. And that's what Mateship's about. It's always being there and supporting your mates. Australia, choose a provider you can trust like a mate. Call 13 14 13 or visit letsbemates.com.au to sign up today. See you soon, mate.
Mining and construction, delivering the right people to the right places.
From some of the sponsors there, it's as we said last week, the club wouldn't be able to do it without those sponsors. So we'd just like to say a huge thank you to them before we move on to, I guess, some of the, I don't know, it's not serious stuff, but because it's been, I guess, some fun happening this week. But the Mariners are the community club, and they've been out and about in the community this week despite there not being any football. So Carly, can you give us a bit of an update as to what the Mariners staff have been up to?
Yeah, so Dan the man got in his van the other day and he did quite a few deliveries. So we did two. The first one was to a young boy named Archie. He actually sent in, you might have seen on our social media channels, he designed, drew a Mariners jersey design that we posted out there, and he wrote this really lovely letter. So we sent Dan out. He package full of great Master Foods things, some chocolate. There was a couple of bottles of wine for his parents because I know that all the parents need that right now. And so Archie's family have actually just come back from India. They were on the last plane back, so they only just made it. They've had a sort of a whirlwind last couple of days. So I think that that little box of goodies was very well appreciated. And then we also dropped in to see Audrey. So she unfortunately is injured at the moment, had a bit of a fall. So Dan popped in with some goodies there. So yes, really lovely to see that. And yeah, you know, Dan's been on the phone giving some happy birthday calls and things like that. I even heard him singing happy birthday to one of our members as well. So if that was you, I apologise.
This is Dan's bread and butter, isn't it?
It is. He loves it. And we've had, you know, all the staff have been, you know, packing up boxes and things like that. It's been fantastic.
So why does Dan get to take all the credit then?
Oh, well, Dan the man in a van. It rhymes.
He loves it. He does.
And so, yeah, I guess as of this morning, some big news coming out of FFA. So we've got some guests that we'll be chatting to.
Yeah, huge news, I guess. Well, depending on what way you look at it, huge news. An update has come today, finally, from the FFA. I guess everyone at home is looking forward to playing football, to watching football, to getting back to the A-League. So we're in a few short moments going to be joined by Tom Smithies and Ray Gatt to talk about what this means for the Australian football community. But I guess as a quick disclaimer before we get started, I need to let everyone know that the chat, we're going to be moving away from Mariners specific content. I'm not employed by the Mariners, so I just need to declare that I don't work for the Mariners, so we can take the shackles off and really get stuck into all the good things and all the bad things that are happening in football at the moment. But there's no two better people to be talking about this situation at the moment than the two we have here. We've got Tom Smithies from the Daily Telegraph. We've got Ray Gatt, Foundation member, an Australian football media icon. Gentlemen, are you with us?
Sure am, Tyson. Good to speak to you.
Yeah, good to speak to you too. Have we got you as well, Gaddy?
That's not just his legendary deafness. He did text me to say he was struggling with the audio.
Well, whilst we're waiting for Gaddy to work out how to use Zoom, we'll chat to you, Tom. First and foremost, mate, we know outside of football you're a craft beer connoisseur. One of our sponsors here is Six String. Have you got a favourite drop from our local brewery here at Erina?
It's a bit of a score draw between the tropical pale ale and the straightforward pale ale. I've been there several times during the off-season. Quite fond of a weekend on the coast with the family, and always make sure I pop into Six String. It is a terrific brewery, great beers, and love to see them getting involved in football. I've said for a long time, craft beer and football is a good match in Australia. I think Melbourne City at one point had a go at producing a beer, but I'd love to see more clubs go down the same path as the Mariners.
Yeah, well, we actually we worked with Six String a few years ago to have a limited run of Six Stripe Lager. So that was really fantastic. I think it sold out in a couple of days. So I agree, football and beer are two things that go very well together.
I think Tom might have ended up with a case of that, did you, Tom?
I think, did I get a case of it? I'm not sure. That makes me sound corruptible. I certainly gave it a good plug in. I think we had some great photos of a couple of your players at the brewery helping to make it.
We did.
In A-League Confidential.
So, yeah, I guess before we get Gaddy in, mate, I guess a lot of people look to you, in normal football times for updates and for news. I guess after taking the time to see what the FFA has announced today, what you're hearing around the grounds, can you just give all the people that are watching a bit of an update as to what the state of play is in football? When can we expect A-League? What are you hearing at the moment, and what can you see taking place?
Well, we're in a holding pattern, and we remain in a holding pattern as of going forward again from today. The announcement basically was everything's still on hold. Hidden away, there was a sort of hint that nothing will start until the end of May. They laid out a process by which they hope to restart, which is the players have to train, obviously, because they're all working by themselves, so they won't be match fit. So they need a period of anywhere between 2 and 4 weeks, I guess, to get match fit again. There was hope that they could complete the regular season at high speed, maybe in less than 3 weeks. I remember a couple of the club CEOs telling me that when they were rushing to do it before the whole thing got suspended. Then maybe, I don't know whether you'd have a truncated final series or get the whole thing done as quickly as possible so that the record books can be satisfied. And of course, broadcasting contracts can be satisfied, because then you'll have had all the games played. That's the reason, of course, the main reason that, let's say one of two main reasons for keeping the season going. One is to see if you can finish it, and for fairness, and to allow Sydney FC to be crown premiers and then to he'll be champions, etc. But also to fulfil sponsorship and broadcast contracts and all that kind of stuff. That's what every sport is trying to do, to be fair, with all their networks and all their sponsors. But it looks like the end of May before the players can even go back to training. And what are we now? April the 23rd. So you're looking at 5 weeks before then, really. So we're waiting for another update in May, it says, the FFA says. And until that point, really, we're just sitting, twiddling our thumbs, waiting. And, there's, unfortunately, being a football writer, there's not really any football to write about.
Well, you mentioned broadcasters and sponsors. I guess there's a lot of football clubs, a lot of broadcasters, a lot of sponsors flicking through contracts, trying to figure out, what the future holds and what they're entitled to. I guess we are looking at a bit of a reality whereby the game may or may not need to continue without a broadcaster. There's sponsors that aren't sure where the future's headed. If you were to look ahead, or if you were to call a spade, what does the future hold for Australian football, and what can Australian football like, I guess, for the positives going into the future for Australian football?
Yeah, thanks for throwing me the easy question there, Tyson. To be honest, this isn't me sitting on the fence. It's impossible to say in the sense of, there was a report 2 days ago that Switzerland thought it would have a vaccine ready by October, and then those reports sort of disappeared. So we don't know when we're going to be in a position for sport to be played, whether it's behind closed doors. We don't know when crowd is going to be able to come back. The NRL are going headlong for this May resumption, but there's a lot of worry that it's a bad look, to be gathering teams together. I went to take my kids to do a bit of exercise this morning, and there's a lot of people out in the parks in groups. People, I think, are getting a bit complacent because of where we've got to with the infection rates. And so that's why football is trying to say we're not rushing back in, because it's not sending a very good message. So therefore, you don't know when and how the league's going to resume. You don't know when and how the next season will be played. No one can really plan anything. That's the major problem with this unprecedented situation. So if you're a sponsor, your appearances or whatever haven't been satisfied. If you're a broadcaster, you haven't got content to show. But equally, it's not through the doing of FFA and the club. So everyone is in this sort of holding pattern, not really understanding what the legal ramifications are, or how we go forward. It's not a simple breach of a contract, and you have a court case, or you don't, you reach an agreement to move on, because these are unprecedented times, and we know that there are high-powered lawyers have been taken on and all that kind of stuff. So it is when you've got most of the staff of the football clubs, most of the football media, most of the staff at Fox Sports all stood down. It tells you what a sort of crazy, desperate time we're in. And I think at the moment everyone's focus is on surviving, but in the background is this question of what the future is. And I know that much smarter brains than me at Football Federation Australia are looking at the whole structure and going, what if, there's a silver lining to this? How can we restructure the A-League? How can we restructure football? Football attracts so much money in terms of registration fees and things like that. And yet we don't seem to, we've got this great participation base, but we've never been able to convert that into the strength of the game. So, there are calls to disband the state federations, which is the nuclear option. There's calls to streamline. There's calls to do things differently. And I know that James Johnson is keen to look at the whole landscape and say that everything's on the table, because why go back to what was before when you've got basically scorched earth? You're going to have to rebuild from scratch. So look at the best model. But what that model will be, to go back to your original question, that's a $6 million question. And really, I don't think it's one that anyone can answer at the moment. You can put forward all sorts of models, but it's all guesswork.
And I guess there's so many people coming forward at the moment, putting their opinions forward, raising ideas, whether it's former players, administrators, coaches. What are you hearing around the grounds, I guess, the good, the bad and the ugly? Is there anything that you're seeing out there on social media or in media reports or stories from ideas that really could kick the league on once it comes back? Are there things that you're hearing that, like you said, could really be a positive for the game?
There's all sorts of stuff going around. There's the the sort of scorched earthers who are saying if a couple of weaker clubs go to the wall, then the A-League could be stronger. There are those who say that all clubs have to be kept alive. Should we look at playing in winter because we'll get a better standard of football? In terms of the commercials of the A-League, it remains to be seen how things play out with Fox Sports. The broadcaster who's been there since the beginning. Obviously, relations have been strained with crowds and TV audiences struggling and that kind of thing. So, where is there going to be a parting of the ways there, or do we? How does the A-League then look at alternatives? What alternatives are there? And there aren't many, let's be honest. So I think in the sort of overall scheme of things, like I said, there are smarter people than me looking at starting from on a blank piece of paper. If you wanted the A-League to be the best thing that it could, how would you draw it up?
And I guess just from a bit of a more lighter point, it is the 7th anniversary of our grand final winning season. What do you remember about the build-up of the game, and what stands out to you the most when we won that wonderful game against the Wanderers?
It was an amazing time. I remember the whole season, obviously, because it was the Wanderers' debut. They exploded onto the landscape. We had Del Piero, Heskey, and Shinji Ono, and we had just so many great sights. There was that, you won't really enjoy this particular result, but that when the Wanderers went to the Mariners and won on a filthy Saturday night in March of 13, I think it was, and but just the crowd that night, be in that stadium, and people, so many people walking the streets, it felt like being in Europe. It was such a great season, and then of course you guys then stormed through to the grand final and completely deserved it on the day. I mean, you dominated the game. Perfect master plan. I remember watching the documentary that you guys made a few months later and seeing all the Arnie talking to the players on the cliff top about how they're going to throw at you that you've lost these so many finals and all this kind of stuff, and that's going to be a strength for us. And it was just brilliant. It was just a brilliant day. Obviously, not great for the Wanderers, but to see you guys get the just reward for the football you played and have the sort of the little club that did mentality. There's so many great stories of the struggle that had gone on, like players eating pasta out of plastic Tupperware bowls underneath the bridge and training on half a pitch because there wasn't enough money to pay the groundsman to do the other half, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's sort of legendary. So yeah, phenomenal season, phenomenal day. And you so deserved it in the end, and it was a pleasure to cover.
In hindsight, you look back on that season and I don't know, you wouldn't say that we took it for granted, but it was definitely, some of the greatest, greatest scenes in the A-League, like you mentioned. That first game where Wanderers came to Central Coast Stadium in Gosford, it had that World Cup atmosphere to it. You had, half the stadium red, half blue and yellow. It was fantastic. But I guess in the week leading into that grand final, from a media point of view, is there anything that really jumps out to you, that fans may not know about? Was there anything that sort of happened in the weeks leading in or in the post-match covering that game that really surprised you?
Yeah, there was some discontent because I remember Patrick Zwanswijk decided to drop a bomb and say that he might have to leave because he wasn't going to get the pay rise he'd been promised or something along those lines. And he was pretty emphatic about giving the story to my colleague Nick Welshaw, who was covering it. And there was that one of those who briefly threatened to derail things, and then it just sort of got overtaken. And I think what the image the Mariners gave off that week was of the proverbial duck, serene on the surface and pedaling like crazy underneath. If I remember correctly, Daniel McBreen won Golden Boot, and I remember doing his famous celebration at the A-League Awards night up on stage in his black tie. But in terms of coverage, it was just both clubs threw open the doors. We got access to all the players. It was such a good news story, and it was, you're right, we took it for granted. Maybe the Mariners fans took it for granted. I think A-League fans took it for granted because that was the high point. That was phenomenal. Then the season after, we had the Wanderers playing up in Brisbane in front of a packed house at Suncorp, and we just thought, we've arrived, we're here. And of course, it has rather been shrinking back ever since. So back to where we are now.
Well, mate, we're going to end on a couple of the harder ones. I hope you don't mind, but let's look back at Australian football at the moment. You're sitting there at FFA, you've got the magic wand to fix football. If you get off the fence for a little bit for a minute, can you tell us, if you were there, what would you do if you're in this situation, to fix the game, to use this to your advantage, to really kick things on? What do you do first? How do you kick back off?
Well, I would point out that I'm not the one on this show with the FIFA Masters, but I think the major problem for the A-League is it needs an injection of capital. And there's been some interesting ideas that have knocked around, like selling a stake in the league. Like you've got your 12 clubs as of next season, so you've got 12 shareholders. Well, have a 13th and sell a stake to an entertainment company or a marketing company or something like that, because it needs an injection of capital and it needs some colour, razzmatazz, some marketing. We've had the plans the clubs put forward when they took over the competition. And it's all moving quite slowly, and so far it just feels like we're not moving anywhere at all. So, in the short term, the A-League needs an injection of capital to get people interested, to get eyeballs, to get the sort of players in, the people what we call the theatre goers, the people who are sort of semi-football fans who've heard of famous players and will go if there is one to see. To get those guys back to 12-13. Look at what we did then and how football was the disruptor sport. Was a bit cheeky. We had that great "We Are Football" slogan. We had some good advertising, and just it was a buzz about it, and people wanted to be part of it. And that's the most important thing. We have to recreate that buzz in the short term, and then in the long term, use that buzz to rebuild the pyramid, so that all those kids who play football will then be interested in and know about the A-League clubs, will be looking at the players, will want to emulate the players. And if you get the kids wanting to emulate the players and wanting to go to games, they'll get their badge of their parents and the parents will take them to games. And then suddenly we could be up at 15,000 again per game, and the TV ratings are good and all that kind of thing. I don't think it's going to take huge amounts. It's just at the moment the A-League's off. It's just got the air of an untrendy brand, and it's the sort you look at of washing powder you look at on the shelf, and for some reason you just don't go for it. You go for the more jazzy looking one, and we need to be jazzy again. And that's the crucial thing, I think, for the powers that be in the suits who are sitting with not a lot else to do and plan the future.
Well, we'll end on a positive, I guess. All of those things, you mentioned so many positive things, I guess, that are there in the ingredients for the A-League. You've got James Johnson, who's come in, who seems to be doing a fantastic job from the outset. You've got a huge participation base. You've got a national team that's sort of growing, I guess. How excited are you for football to kick back off? And do you think it has that potential to really get back to what we saw in 2013 with full stadiums and competitive balance and big crowds? Do you think that that their ingredients are there to really kick it back off and get it to where it was?
Well, they always were there. They have been there in 12-13. It's about creating that buzz that I mentioned before, using those ingredients. In the hands of a bad chef, yeast and flour doesn't amount to much, but in the hands of a good chef, you've got an amazing loaf of bread. The same ingredients are there. It's about having leaders who can see the potential, can allow it to unfold. And we do have a leader now in James Johnson, who is not only a football man through and through, but a football structures man. He worked for years at the AFC, worked for years at FIFA. He understands how successful football economies work. He's able to pick up the phone to lots of people and get advice and ideas, and hopefully can synthesize those. As you say, he's given off a very good impression to start with in the first few weeks. And let's face it, he's had an almighty run of things to deal with. I mean, he's probably one of the very first executives in the country to have to deal with coronavirus in terms of the Matildas. And then it's, the whole thing since he came in has just exploded. But he is a strategic thinker. He doesn't panic. So if there's the right person to be sitting there planning the future, you'd imagine it will be him. But he has to do it, and he has to produce the plan that enthuses people and ultimately does the things that we want it to do.
Well, I don't know how we never got Gaddy on. We're a bit worried that he's just out fishing and not looking to pick up our call. But Tom, we really appreciate you joining us. It's been great to have you on and to get your insight. We really look forward to getting you back up to Central Coast Stadium soon for a six string to watch the football. And I don't think we'll ever take it for granted again.
I look forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Tom.
So much.
So many positives there, I guess. There's so much to look forward to, whether it's having a kick with your mates or going to the A-League. I just really hope that, things can improve sooner rather than later so we can get back and enjoy the game we love.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait to be out there and sort of just, being with your teammates again and enjoying your Sundays on the football pitch.
Absolutely.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
And so last week we did talk a little bit about the grand final parade. We spoke a little bit about that sort of, the atmosphere and everything like that. We actually came across a video that Gosford City Council, now Central Coast Council, put together after that. And so we'll head over to that so you can see.
It's been an awesome day here in the Gosford CBD. Our Mariners are A-League champions, and to celebrate their victory, the whole of the Gosford CBD shut down. Man Street completely packed. We had the bus with the Mariners coming down, people chanting, and it was just amazing. Let's go and check it out.
So much for doing this for us. 8 years we've been waiting for this, and can you see that? We're so excited, 2 games in a row.
This is Mariners' youngest band. Woo!
League champions, now bring on the Asian Cup. Let's look forward to a full stadium on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Come on, boys.
Yeah, unbelievable. I think
the culmination of the 3 years that Arnie and I have been here, but also the culmination of 8 years of the club's existence. And you see what it means to the supporters today. And just, I never thought I'd see the day when Gosford stopped still to celebrate a football game and a trophy. It's just, it's marvellous.
It's unbelievable. It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it. To have literally thousands upon thousands of people filling the park behind us.
Community events like this are not only important for building that community spirit and getting the community reunited and focusing on a common cause, but it also shows the Mariners, also shows the boys that played their heart out for that 96 minutes last Sunday that they mean something to the people of the Central Coast. They're our team, they're our future.
When the Mariners won, the cheers from the crowd, they actually drowned out the Wanderers supporter. It was absolutely fantastic. And today, congratulations to Paul, to Laurie McKenna and the team at Council. This is fantastic. This is what community spirit's about. This is the Central Coast. And there's more to come for us.
And a massive thank you for everybody involved today, shutting off the streets and the open top buses. It's a fantastic occasion, and there's so many people that I can't name that will need thanking, and say Gosford Council for making this possible, making it a great memory, not just for the players, for the fans and everybody of Gosford and the Central Coast.
Yeah, obviously the first bit of silverware, like the championship trophy, very special to give to the club. The club deserves it. They've been in 4 finals now in 8 years, so one every 2 years, and it just shows the consistency of the club, and this community deserves it.
Fantastic from Central Coast Council. And don't forget, tomorrow night, 7:30 on our Facebook and YouTube channels, you can watch the grand final replay live there. Join in on the comments and relive it like it's the actual match day.
What a day.
And also, just before we forget, but before we go, big happy birthday to Ziggy Gordon.
Hey, happy birthday, Ziggy.
Still here on the Central Coast, celebrating his birthday. Hope it's been a wonderful one for you, even though I'm sure you're unfortunately sort of stuck at home. But hopefully your family and friends have been able to make it a wonderful one for you.
Playing plenty of games of chess, I'm sure. He's a keen chess player, so I'm sure he's getting plenty of practice in.
And a final mention of, don't forget, our support line is still open. So if you're a Mariners member or a Mariners fan, that you're at home and just even if you just need someone to chat to, or if you need someone to help out, we'll send Dan over to mow your lawns even. Call 4353 7200 between Monday to Friday 9 to 5 and we'll be able to help out.
Dan's looking to do anything he can to get out of the house at the moment. So if you do need him, call him. He'll come mow your lawn, where he'll do whatever you need him to do. So we can guarantee you that. I think that wraps us up, doesn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So thank you again for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the people we had on today. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Gaddy. We're going to go look in the entrance channel and make sure he hasn't fallen in. But thank you for joining us. Hopefully, you've enjoyed the people we've had on the show, the chats we've had. If there's anyone in particular you're hoping to see on the show, or maybe you want us to chat to, get in touch with the club. But I look forward to kicking back on Friday, enjoying the grand final again. Sinking some six string and pretending like it's 2013 again. So thank you for joining us.
No worries.
Thanks for having me again.
And we'll see you in a fortnight's time.
See you guys.